Hello, welcome to Transition Clarity and another authentic conversation. This will be episode 30. We're having so much fun and we'll keep on going. Today, our guest is Patricia-m-Smith. She's born to help and she is here to help us with our voice to able to speak better, share with the world, and transform how we speak. With that, I want to welcome Patricia to the show. Welcome, 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 Patricia from VoiceOver. We're so glad you came. And let's start with a little bit about your background. How did you become a voiceover coach, doing voiceovers, being that voice that now has just, for me, given me a live person to understand that they're actually live people, that when you have to press one for so and so and press two for this, they're live people. I always thought it was just generated.
Well, thank you, Adele. I'm happy to be with you today. This will be fun. I think one story that resonates with a lot of people is the Wizard of Oz movie. A lot of us saw that movie and they heard this big booming voice, and all of a sudden, behind the curtain, there's a person. So, in many parts of our lives, we have these voices who guide us here, there, and yon. And frequently, there is a live person behind there. And yes, telephone answering is one service. Radio, we've grown up with radio, people talking to us now in the car more so. But our parents, our grandparents would huddle around the big box in the living room and hear messages from the president or from other leaders, and that's how they got the news of the world, was through the radio. And now we have television, and now we have computers in our hands, and we gather a lot of information there. So use of the voice has been in play for a long time. Now, for me, I am the third of 6 children, and so maybe I needed to have my voice heard by being able to project and get people's attention. So I really didn't think about just working with my voice until I retired, but my work was as the communications officer. So whenever we had a message from my employer, I was the
Mhm.
one who took it to the media, to the community, sometimes even to staff. So I was the paid spokesperson. You hear
Mhm.
about that all the time, the paid spokesperson. So then, of course, I was speaking to another live body at the moment, maybe at a news conference or something like that. And of course, behind that, I was always researching and writing to create information to send out to print media.
Yeah.
So being able to use this instrument in my retired life is really a big bonus for me.
Well, and I like how you called it an instrument because we all have those musicians in your life, right? Or I do. And I just go, oh, if I only had the, know how to play an instrument. And my friend who's a singer, vocal coach, said, and what's wrong with your voice? And I'm like, pardon? Never, it just never dawned on me that our speaking is an instrument that we are using.
We are using and sometimes abusing and sometimes not using it to its full potential.
Yeah.
Now, I will go back to my teenage years. I was a senior in high school. I was in a girls' Catholic school, and we were preparing for something called the May procession. So lots of singing and carrying on like that. And so the principal is weaving her way through the group, and she stopped at me and she said, "Patricia, you are singing an octave below everyone else." And I said, "Sister, I am tone deaf." And she said, "Then stop singing." I've never been told not to sing before, and so I was happy to not sing. I knew my voice was not the same as other people's, but I didn't worry about that. But again, just because I can't sing on note like other people doesn't mean I can't be effective in using this tool, this instrument, and it gives me great joy. I was just before we got started talking today, looking at a class about audiobooks. Now
Yeah.
I have shied away from recording books because I don't wanna be Uncle Henry and Aunt Mary and Susie Q all at the same time. I'm not a paid actor. I'm not a trained actor.
Yeah.
So I have not learned how to become other people. So I will look into nonfiction through audiobook recording.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up because I listen to a lot of audiobooks and I just started one with Gary Zukov and I love Gary Zukov. Like like I've been following him since he first came out in 86 or 87. And I was nervous because I like Gary's voice and I understand when the vibration of a voice has a certain energy. And I'm like, do I like Gary for Gary because of his voice and his tonality and his vibration? Or do I like it that anyone can read it and I still get the same vibration? Well, he has a sound guy that has his intonations. It's slightly different octave. And I'm like, to me, it's scary. Or maybe in my brain, I switch it out that it's scary and it's not this other guy reading it. But he has his dialect. He has it. He's got him down. And so I'm like, hey, I'm all excited.
Oh, good. Well, I wonder if you would get the same interest in the book, in the content of the book, if you read it in your hand. Is it the voice that's drawing you in or the story that's drawing you in?
Well, I started with reading his books,
Mhm.
um, and I just I still like to have a hard copy book to read, but I just find um, I'm listening to more audiobooks for the fact like I can walk with it, I can drive with it, I can cook dinner kind of thing. So it's more that um, I can multitask, which maybe we shouldn't, but I do.
Well, the authors are glad to get their story in front of you
Yeah,
one way or the other, and you can always go back to the hard copy and
yeah,
review sections to enjoy them even more deeply, perhaps.
yeah,
Because for me, when the sound goes, I don't always stay with it. I'm ready to absorb something else.
yeah.
And so it's an exercise. I commend you for learning that way, to enjoying that way and holding it steady.
Well, and that's true in the fact that learning that way, like reading is not my style. Like that was evident from grade 3 on, right? And so even in class, like, well, read this chapter, and I took a school bus, right, to school, and I had 6 other people in my grade,
Wow.
right?
It's a small town.
Well, no, we all bussed in like an hour out, but my grade, my bus had a lot of us the same age, and so I'd be like, okay, Brainiacs, what are we reading? They'd speed read it, and we'd discuss it on our bus ride. I never read a chapter
Oh, heavens.
because
Wow.
I learn by listening, right? Words are just they're nice. Like, are they sinking in? Not really. They are when I do crosswords because I learn. What
See,
does that word mean?
that is so important for
Yeah,
people, and I'll be more specific, taxpayers to know that people learn differently. So it's
yeah,
all great to have Mrs. Carruthers at the front of the room rolling through the curriculum, but if the student is not absorbing the curriculum because they're made differently,
yeah.
then what is our responsibility as the community who believes that education makes a strong community?
Education can make a strong community, but we don't all learn different. We learn differently, and truly, I don't know where I would be if I didn't have an hour, well, 2 hours every day with way
Coming and
smarter
going.
people. Like we
I'm
weren't
glad that
like we weren't even in the same class, but we tended to like within the same week do the same material. Like that's where roll out the curriculum, and I'd be like, I don't get what they're saying. Oh, it's like this. I go, got it. And then when I went back to university as an adult, I was scared because I'm like, all I hear about university is you got to be able to digest a ton of textbooks. And I'm like, well, okay, I'll see what I can do because I was working full time, going to school at night and weekends, and it was all discussions and role
yay.
play. And I'm like, I love adult learning. This university I can do. Like, right?
Wow.
So
Good, good.
finally, a school that understood I learned differently.
Excellent,
And
excellent.
so this is where it comes down to the like the voice about you don't want to be different characters. You want to use your voice for you.
Right, right.
And that's even a learning in itself, right? Because there are those people that can read those storybooks that can change their voice and change. It's like that's awesome for them. And you know your lane.
Well, I have been paid to talk like this, but I don't want to. I don't. That was a short squib. There was a police officer role play kind of thing, and so I could throw that in. And I just took a risk when I did the audition. Oh, I'll go ahead. It's an older person. I'll throw that in. Got it, and I was tickled. But I don't want to get in the way of, again, the trained actors who have spent a lot of time investigating and accents. Oh my heavens, there are people who can bring together a different country's accent. And I've just got this, I call it regionally neutral. I
Mm-hmm.
spent time in New Jersey and Pennsylvania, but I have been in Nashville, Tennessee over 50 years. And my Southern friends will say, I'm not a Southerner. And my Northern friends will say, well, you're certainly not a Northerner anymore. That's for sure. So again, regionally neutral. And so hopefully, and my speed, oh my heavens, my speed of delivery has changed tremendously. And I can speed up and slow down depending upon the content, and that works out well. I'm doing a project right now where I serve as, oddly enough, Maya the magpie. And they don't want a screechy bird voice. They just want a steady, mature storytelling voice, who sometimes can go, hey, I'm up in the tree. And so I can throw that in when necessary. But yeah, all your friends, all your listeners who need e-learning, who need their employees to see a
Yeah.
screen with new documentation and how a new process, a new product. Let me talk about your new copy machine. I can talk about that all day long. Think about
Yeah.
e-learning when you think about Patricia.
Well, and it's even like how before we got talking, how you're like, I prefer to be Patricia, not Pat. And it's so important because the vibration of your name changes, right? And so even my name shouldn't be able to be shortened or changed. And it's amazing how people do it. And I'm like, what?
They want to call you Addie or something?
Or Adele or um
Dell?
yeah, like and and so this is where the singer Adele came in handy because it's like the singer. Oh, okay. Like
Good.
you're not gonna call her that, you know. And yeah, so um where am I going? So I was reading on your LinkedIn profile how you're here to serve and how you had such a variety of places to serve, which is great. And um I think in all of us we kind of back at our journey and go, that didn't make sense, but that detour helped me so much to where I am today.
I agree. I'm with you. I'm with you.
Right?
I had the benefit
Mhm.
of a strong family upbringing,
Mhm.
and I think that strengthened me to
Mhm.
know that I have some skills to share.
Mhm.
And so there's actually a family in my neighborhood, and they have chosen the homeschool route. And so I said to her, I said to mom, uh, would you like for me to read to the young ones while you are teaching the older ones? I could read whatever books you hand me. I'm not going to bring my own material. You bring me your books. I will sit down with the young ones and read because I think reading is very important to a lot of people. Hearing it and then recognizing that words have a story behind them. And so I've been working with them, enjoying their company for over 2 years now.
Oh, how wonderful.
And it just and she trusts me now, of course, and so, she'll go into the kitchen and go about other business while I have 2 or 3 or 4 or one of them. And, I think that's really good because I have the ability, I have the time. Why not give it to somebody else, if they can make use of it?
Okay, so I heard something the other day that I'm not sure if I believe or not believe. Maybe you can give me some insight on what your feeling is. They're saying if you have the closed captioning on, anything you're giving their child, whether they can read it, understand it, or anything, they are going to be 100% further advanced when they do start reading. And when they start reading, they'll be reading bigger, larger books faster.
That's an interesting statistic. I don't have any data around that, but I think the
Okay.
more you see words and connect them to
Mm-hmm.
their meaning, you're going to be more comfortable. As you said, your name is Adele.
Yeah.
And for me, it's a word I've seen before. I don't have any trouble creating the sound that I expect goes there. But I also am not so locked in concrete that if you said, oh, now I pronounce it Adele,
Yeah.
then I can go with that.
Yeah.
I've got a lady friend who spells her name Karen, and she said, we say it Karen.
What?
Thank you. But it's her name. It's her name, right? It's
Oh,
how her family put
well,
it together.
and I've heard it instead of Karen is Karen. I've heard
Okay.
Karen,
So here we've got three from the same
right?
letters in a row.
Yeah. Well,
But
and then it's funny because I'll go to Mexico and I don't even correct them because I'm always Adela. Okay.
okay.
Right? Because that's the way they say Adele. So I'm like, whatever.
Right.
And then I used to always say, just don't call me late for dinner. I don't care what you call me.
Exactly. Very good. That's a good phrase always.
Right?
Yeah, so our words are important everywhere and how we use our words. And that's important in respect. Respect. Using the words, using the name. So I did change in my professional career when I changed industries from affordable housing
Hmm.
to the American Red Cross. I
Okay.
thought, ooh, I'm going to have different audiences. I can go ahead and become Patricia instead of my childhood name of Pat. Because on the phone, not so much face to face, but on the phone, I would be confused for a man a lot. I have a deeper voice than some people, than some women. And so I thought, oh, I'll just use my whole name. I'll use Patricia. And so even on the phone, right away, people should recognize that as a female.
Yeah.
Not that I can't conduct business, pretending
Yeah.
to be a man, whatever. But it was fun for me and just a good chance to use the whole name that my parents gave me so many years ago.
Well, and that brings up a point too, right? Because I had a friend, her name was Carissa, and her mom called her Carrie. And so when I got brought into the mix, one I met Carissa. We were in another group, and everyone's talking about Carrie. It probably took me a month to figure out they're talking about the same person.
Sure, sure. Sure,
And
sure.
I actually had to say, "Wait a minute, are you talking about like who are you talking about?" And then they all laugh. And so one day she phoned her mom and she says, "You're probably not going to like this, but Carrie doesn't live here. You gave me Carissa. This is my given name. Please use it." Her mom had a hard time with that. She goes, "If you wanted to
Oh.
call me Carrie, you should have named me Carrie."
Well, we have a daughter named Elizabeth, and as she moved through school, she took on Liz.
Hmm.
And so at some point I said to her, "Do you want me to call you Liz?" She said, "No, no. For you, you need to call me Elizabeth." And I said, "Okay." So I have this disconnect when I'm with her friends, and we work it out. But that's what she prefers, so I can deal with that.
Well, and it's funny because when I was younger, I didn't talk right until like 3, 4, and so when I did start talking, I couldn't say Debbie. So I used to call her D. To this day, all my friends call her D. Because especially when she was born, there were so many Karens and Debbies. Like everybody was Debbie or Karen, right? And so it was just like, I'm just leaving it at D because I can't even call you Debbie and you'll listen. But if
Sure,
I call it
sure.
D, she turns around.
Turns around. Good. Yeah. So service is very important to me. We were raised in the Catholic Church. I'm an active
Hmm.
Catholic, and that's, imbued in everything we do. But it's just easy because we all of us have needs. Um, whether somebody needs me to pick up something at the grocery store. They've already been to the grocery this week. They don't want to go back to the grocery. I'm going. Let me go ahead and get you that gallon of apple juice that you want.
Yeah.
And why is that an interference in my life? Why can't I be open to helping somebody? And I said to the kids, we moved into a new construction neighborhood 30 years ago, and I always brought something to the new house. So the new family coming in, I would bring them brownies or cookies or fruit or,
Yeah.
you know, something. Hey, glad you're here. This is my phone number.
Yeah.
And finally, when the kids were old enough to understand, I said, it's like putting money in the bank. If I need them, isn't it better that I have given them something already? I won't be a stranger calling and saying, my dog is loose. Will you look in your backyard for my dog?
Yeah.
So I think that has value. And I think it's really strengthening for communities to know everybody on your block and maybe
So,
beyond.
do you find we've lost that in our busyness of life?
I think that, yes, I
Okay.
think that my little neighborhood might be different in that we try to know people better, though we do have a little directory and not everybody puts their name and phone number in it. And again, as an adult, I have to respect that,
Yeah.
though I give them mine
Hmm.
in case they want to use it.
Yeah. Well, and I know like some neighborhoods used to have block parties,
Yes.
right? And they'd close off the street and you're welcome and whatever. And even I find that's gone. And
Well,
it's
when
like
is Canada Day? Is there a Canada Day?
July 1st.
Okay, good, good. So on July 4, in our little neighborhood in America, the children of whatever age will dress up their persons, dress up their vehicle, whether it's a wagon they're being pulled in or a bicycle that they're riding. They will dress it up in red, white, and blue.
Yeah.
We'll meet at the flagpole
Yeah.
and we will traverse to the pool. And I will be passing out popsicles when they get there.
Oh, fun.
And then there'll
Fun.
be music around the pool. So yes, that's a community. It's yes, there's some planning that has to happen. There's some
Yeah.
purchasing that has to happen, but it gives a sense of, oh, you've got a 5-year-old too. Yo, I've got an 8-year-old. And so there
Yeah.
could be play dates and more fun and carpools. You know, why not go ahead and have a carpool when you can?
Yeah. Well, and I just find like when I'm walking and it's like schools letting out, like we have schools all around, but so many but people are being bused to special schools or it's like so kids don't even go to here at least school in their own neighborhood.
Yeah.
And Calgary is huge, one of the biggest homeschooling in North America,
Wow.
right? Because um we're a city of we tend to be on the younger side. Like so the average working age is like 37 to 40 and they don't want to be strapped to saying we have to go on holidays at this time with everybody else in the world,
Okay.
right? And then COVID actually helped the homeschooling
Sure.
because well if we're going to be online, we may as well do it from Timbuktu. And then even my friend was saying, am I being a bad parent? And I go, why? Well, we're skiing. And I go, he skis in the morning, he does homework in the afternoon. Done.
Right. Right. Yeah.
Or
So
I bring my computer, you go skiing, he goes to school, and I work from your house to catch him off the bus. Like, right? Like, you know.
there's a lot of discomfort around the words core curriculum.
Well, it's out of date.
Yeah, I hear you talking about dates, but I'm
Okay.
segueing into core curriculum because do we agree
Mm-hmm.
as a community of whatever size,
Mm-hmm.
neighborhood, county, state, province, of what people need to know to become effective adults? Do we agree there's adding and subtracting and multiplying and dividing? Is there a sense of history? You know, why
Yeah.
did we get into that war? Why did we choose to do this? How are borders maintained? Oh my goodness. Um, so what do we agree on? If we could
Mm-hmm.
agree on what everybody needs to know
Mm-hmm.
to be able to serve each other, to serve their families, to keep the world going in a positive way,
Mm-hmm.
I think that you and I, even though we know very little about each other, can agree that shooting is not an effective communication tool. And so, a lot in too many places in the world, we've got active shooting.
Yeah.
And so, again, the community service aspect for me is how can I serve the people around me
Yeah.
to avoid that breakdown of communication.
Yeah. Well, and I know I've had conversations like I tend to find because I've been I've only moved 15 miles in my whole life. Like right? But if you're from out of town, like if you're from South Africa or Europe or Timbuktu, you find me and we become friends. That's just how it is. And and so one time we were having a conversation, this person was new to Canada, like was deciding if they wanted to be a citizen and was dogging on our country for not helping them enough and not and I'm like, whoa, whoa, whoa. And they went, what? And my friend from South Africa was with us, right? I said, who chose to come to Canada? Well, I did. Who chose to come to this city? Well, I did. Who left their country because of whatever was happening, war or whatever? Well, I did. And it's Canada's fault for not supporting you and looking after you and paying your bills? I said, you chose to come, and I'm choosing to say you can leave whenever you decide. I said,
Yep.
no, you don't come here for handouts. Out. And my friend's like, you can't do that. And I go, why not? It's my country. The people who are here are coming to support each other, to love on each other, not to diss each other. And I'm not getting enough. And the government's like, no, no, no. If your country is so beautiful and wonderful, you wouldn't have left.
Yeah, I believe people need to work.
Yeah. And be kind.
Thank you.
Be
Thank you.
kind to your neighbor, whether it is taking the brownies over or just giving a wave hello. We don't know what's going on behind the closed doors,
Right.
but we sure can put on a smile and say good morning as we walk by or a wave.
I think that's simple. I think that's worthwhile.
And I think we got to get back to that. I don't
Yep.
care what country you live in. We got to, and that's where the voice comes.
Right.
Stand true in your voice and strength and be kind,
Excellent. Excellent advice.
right? And so I don't know. Now I'm excited to what author I can send you. Try
Oh,
read this
good.
book. Read this book. Oh,
Read this book for me.
just because how Gary picked, and I can't think of his name right now. He couldn't have picked a better voice for his voice if he wasn't reading it himself.
So he matched his narrator comes across very closely to what you perceive as his voice.
Yeah, his is softer. His narrator is a bit more like um trained voice. But yeah, like and so and then I think about like a book that I would want you to be reading. It's got to be a strong character. Like, right? Like, cuz it's like you have that like commanding voice, which is awesome. And you've learned,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Like because you were a middle child of 6. If you didn't learn, you were rolled over.
I'd be hungry. I'd be
Yeah,
hungry.
right. It's like
Yes, I
it's like the boys at the table, right? Oh no, if you don't scarf down, you're not getting enough. Like,
Yeah, I would not put myself forward to be the little baby bunny
yeah,
in a story.
no,
That's not going to be my role.
no. But yeah, like yeah. Oh, that's interesting. It's like like it just gets my brain go. Who do I know? What do I know? What do I know?
Good. Well, I'm glad you have found authors that inspire you.
Yeah. Well, like I said, right? I audiobook, I podcast. Like something's always in my ears.
Good.
Um,
Now, what draws you to Mexico? You said you've been to Mexico and they pronounce your name Adela.
um, that's a funny story because my parents are from Guyana. And so every time you'd bring up like people are going to Mexico, going to Mexico. Well, my family goes, why would I want to go back to a third world country? That's where we left. And so I grew up with you don't go back to the third world country. So all my friends as adults were going to Mexico. And then they're like, are you ever going to come to Mexico? And I go, no. Why would I want to go to a third world country? Right? Because I've heard the stories of the poverty. And when my parents were growing up in Guyana, they weren't impoverished. Like they were on the upper scale and they still said it's a third world country. So I'm like, okay. And then I don't know what my friend just said. Um, well, she was somewhere in the world and she goes, well, I could meet you in Mexico. Do you want to meet in Mexico? And I was like, well, I guess if that's our only option, right? And I thought that was weird that she was saying Mexico. I go, okay. So here I am flying in on my own, and I kept on hearing these stories of push the button and you go right, and I'm like, right. So I'm tired. I'm flying in like 11 o'clock at night. Never been to this country. I'm going. I'm starting to get anxious about pushing the button, right? Because even if I didn't understand like the language barrier, like whatever, right? And then I got the green light. Then I see this placard saying my name, and I'm going, what does this mean? Right. And so I go, okay. So I go with this guy. I'm trusting it, right? Calling in my intuition, trusting it. So we go past all the timeshare sales and all that. And I'm like, what the heck is this? Like it was like a stock auction, right? I'm going, this is crazy. So we get to the hotel, and as the taxi pulls up, she's coming down the stairs, and I was like, "Oh, civilization! I've made it!" Right? And
Good job.
she goes, I hope you don't mind that I sent the car for you. And I go, mind? Are you joking? I'd still be at the airport. Like, going, first, how do you get through all the timeshare sales? How do you get, and, and yeah, so we just, like I was going, world traveler, I am not. And thank you for being a world traveler and saving my bacon. 'Cause
So is that your only trip away?
no, no, no.
Okay.
I've traveled a lot, but that was my first time to Mexico, and it was my first time figuring it out. And luckily, I chose it with her because when I went down again alone, it was no big deal. And it was really funny because the people I met with her ended up being there a different time with when I was with somebody else. Like it was just crazy. We had no
Well, good.
communication with people, and all of a sudden we all ended up at the same bar at the same time. And I'm like, what? And they're like, what? And we're like, what?
Tremendous. That's tremendous. I think travel is very eye-opening. And
Oh,
even television, when you have a television show and they take you to Tunisia, they take you to Zurich, and you think, "Oh, is that what it looks like?"
hmm
And it just educates us to know that
yeah.
there's more out there in the world, and I don't know that Mexico would want to be considered a third world country. I think they probably think they have, more going for them than that, and so you've got to experience it, and you've seen poverty, and you've seen some comfort in Mexico.
Well, and in that, like that's so true because they have the high end resorts that it's really hard. Like if you're like you take out their taxis to go anywhere, whatever, and then they kind of frown on what taxi you bring back into the resort.
Oh.
Because and it's like, well, you don't send your taxi for us. We bring your taxi, but you don't send it for us, right? And even one time, I was down there and we are grabbing an Uber, and he goes, "Ooh," and I said, "We have a problem." He goes, "I'm not sure if I have to see if I have permission to enter that resort."
Well, they don't want their tourists to see anything uncomfortable so they don't come back.
But I'm like, we're already out of the resort, so we're coming back into the like, and so that was eye opening. But yet, it's really interesting too. Of how you can go, say, Puerto Vallarta, and you're walking along the Malecon and you have the riches of the rich, the poorers of the poor, but they're all one on the Malecon, right? Like you have no idea. Or one time I befriended one of the hotel workers, and I said, "How come there's no Mexicans in the resort?" And he goes, "No, no, they have their own." And I go, "What do you mean they have their own?" Right? And he said, "The whole class culture, you don't mix them. If
Oh,
you
so the resorts.
if if you're in the resort as a Mexican, you are a worker. You're never a
Okay.
guest." And then I went back another time and they're all mixed, and I was like, "Hmm, they're changing. They're changing."
Okay. So
Right?
tourists want to be only with their own
No,
tribe.
I don't
in
even
their own
think
town.
I don't think it was a tourist thing. I think it was a Mexican thing. Like even the affluent Mexicans had their own resorts. They didn't mix with, yeah.
Okay.
You know, it's
Okay.
interesting, right? How times have changed, how we look at things, right? And I remember one time my girlfriend and I were at the resort and we are having fun with everyone, we are laughing, whatever. And all of a sudden one morning we come out for breakfast and everything's done up, ties are on, they're like the laughter was gone. And I said, "What happened?" And the one looked at me and he goes, "I don't say this to offend," because he didn't know where we're from. Right? He says, "We have a special American group coming in." And I said, "Great.
Those
Thank
Americans.
No, well, thank God they're only there for 3 days." They walked around with their speakerphone on, screaming into the phone. And I'm like, it just like the whole resort just went,
I'm so sorry.
well, they're just, yeah, like I don't get it. I don't get it. And then they left, and then like the ties came off, everyone's happy again. I'm like, oh, like I actually told two people, I said, do you mind taking your phone call elsewhere? And they went, "Pardon?" I go, "Well, I'm kind of enjoying the beach and I want to enjoy the beach. I don't want to hear all about your craziness at home."
Good.
They're offended, but they left.
That's win-win.
Yeah.
Win-win.
Yeah.
Well, just like at a neighborhood pool,
Yeah.
the teenagers come and they want to play their music loudly, and
Yeah.
the 50-year-olds would rather read their book or listen to their book.
Yeah. But that's where I like using your voice in a productive way. You're not saying to the kids, "Turn that crap off. We'd rather read our books or get lost." You said, "Can we work together?" Right? Maybe turn it down a little bit so I can still concentrate on my book. And that's where I think um, the craft of using our our instrument is really coming to the forefront now. Of, are you using it in kindness and love or hate and destruction?
That is profound. It reminds me a little bit of one time at the office, and I was talking to a coworker, and she looked at me and she said, "Is it true that when you get angry, your voice gets really, really quiet?" And I said, "I'm quite disappointed at the status of this project. And yes, one way I contain my emotions is to control my voice because it's not effective to scream and yell.
Mhm.
It is effective to be clear in the next instruction." And so she got the message. You
She
messed up. You messed up, kid. Move on. Let's get it right. Yeah, I've never felt able to shout to get myself understood. I just don't think that that's a useful use of my voice.
Well, I wish I knew you in my teenage years.
Did somebody shout at you?
No, well, I Well, yeah, and then I retaliated because by the time, like, I'm good until I hit that wall. Like, I can go and go and go and go, and then I hit that wall, and it's like the wall's coming down, and you're getting blasted, right? Um, Fair, unfair, I don't know. Like every situation is different. Um, because most of my shouting, I kind of would, I like, okay, leave the situation, then go in your car and just scream, like,
Yeah,
or
yeah, sure,
something, right? Because
sure.
it's just like you have to let it out, or else it gets stuck in your body. Um, Yet I wish I knew I had the tools now, like how you just lower your voice. Then they have to lean in to pay attention, and if they still don't get the message, someone else will tell them a different way for them to understand it. And um, because I know, like, my one girlfriend, if she went quiet, like, I'd be like, ah, can you please say that sentence louder? Because I know that's the one I'm supposed to be catching. Because she'd say it quieter. So I'm paying attention. And I'm like, I can't lean any more in because I'm already on my phone, right? The volume's on high. And then she'd trying to chuckle because she didn't even realize that that was a tactic she used.
Ah,
Because
good.
she was a therapist for 35 years, right? And I'd be like, okay, I guess we're in therapy because I can't hear you.
Can't hear you. Well, I see the words on your screen: tranquility, mood, emotion. I am lucky enough that I have been able to carve out time. I walk every day.
Me too.
Either I walk in the neighborhood or I walk at the gym, and I walk alone. I would welcome company, but I don't need that. I am
Yeah.
out the door having my time because it really just centers me,
Yeah.
and I can put things in priority and go about my day. So yeah, I need that. I recognize that. I need that, and I need enough sleep. That's for sure.
Yeah. And I'm glad you noticed my new words because I was just informed about them yesterday.
Informed about them.
Well, yeah, I was on a conversation on a discovery call, and I discovered that I'm rebranding. Anyways, um,
Good.
yeah, and so she's a word curator, and she goes, "You got to change your words." And I'm like, "Oh, all right."
So do those resonate with you?
Yeah, because she asked me about my lighthouse and what does it mean. And because I do energetic space clearings in homes and offices, well, I have my home, the light is shining bright to get all the energy moved, and the calm sea is the tranquility.
Oh,
I'm
very
like,
good.
wow. So when you have people like a voiceover coach that understands how to, use your voice to project or soften or whatever, or a word curator when I'm not very that great with words, I understand words and I can use words, but I can't massage them. It's like, oh, when you get them all together, look, magic happens,
Magic, magic.
right?
Words are powerful.
Very
I
powerful.
I pushed myself last week. Now I have pitched my employer for years. I
Yeah,
can talk about whoever that employer was. I'm retired now, but I could always speak about my employer,
yeah,
pros and cons and how to reach. So last week I pitched my small business, which is called Her Voice Works.
yeah.
And that was a whole different level of energy. And I did chuckle to somebody with me. I said, I'm so glad there are no blood pressure cuffs around here because I was number 49 of 50. And so
Right.
so everybody's emotions were kind of wound up because they were giving 90 seconds to express all about their small business and how we can serve you. And so that was just a good growth opportunity for me.
Yeah.
Anyway, a lady, 2 ladies afterwards came up and spoke to me and wanted to get my card. One lady said when they called her name, she couldn't get up. She had prepped, she had
The
thought about it,
nerves.
but once they called her name, she could not come forward, and I said, "I would be happy to work with you on that." There are different techniques to think about an audience.
Yeah.
And then another lady, I was so I was being a real immature little baby when I was nervous about giving my talk, when there were women there giving their presentations in their second language, you know? this is the one I've got. This is the one I know. But no, they had taken on a whole nother language and they're giving their presentations and doing it well. And I'm just so tickled for them. So
Yeah.
it's very good. We have to give ourselves tools. We have to give ourselves goals
Yeah.
if we want to do anything besides sit.
Yeah. Well, and we have to give ourselves grace,
Yes, to grow, opportunity and
right?
time, practice.
Because
You're right.
I heard Tom Hanks talking about when they're making the Forrest Gump movie, and the little boy that played him as the little boy, he talked like Forrest Gump. Tom Hanks copied him rather than him trying to talk like Tom Hanks,
Good, good.
right? And
Well,
he's
and
yeah,
go ahead.
because he says this kid was perfect. His voice wasn't.
Right, right.
So I became
Well,
him.
you became him. Well, similar to that, I in the Andy Griffith show,
Mm-hmm.
Opie Taylor,
Mm-hmm.
and I should know his real name. It'll come to me. He could not read when he took on that role. And so he would have to memorize his lines. So Andy Griffith, was helping and going around the script, whatever it was, to help him deliver.
Yeah.
Because I mean, he played a child beautifully,
Yeah.
but how could he have memorized all those words unless somebody perhaps had read them to him 16 times before he goes on, and maybe work in short stints?
Yeah.
And so you're right. We have to give ourselves grace, work on our strengths, and decide whether those weaknesses need to be developed. Some don't. I am not going to take voice lessons. I'm not going to learn how to sing. Don't need to learn how to sing. And I probably will never jump out of an airplane. But there are other skills,
Yeah.
patience, and that's a virtue. Um, Other skills I can learn. My daughter lives with these delivery meals. And
Yeah.
so following the instructions and trying to do that instead of just putting the food out on the table, which I can do. I can make a meal. Here it is. And perhaps I learned that recipe, time ago, but I'm not watching every step to see it. I'm using this much pepper here, saving some pepper for over there. Oh my goodness. But that's the way she's learning and
So
she's enjoying it.
I know, but so that's interesting that you are a cook and she didn't pick up on that.
No interest in that. She needs to eat. She eats nutritionally, but the idea, I mean, my mother provided food for 8 people every day for who knows how many years.
Yeah.
There was dinner on the table for 8 mouths,
Yeah.
and it wasn't always special. Sorry, mom. But it was what we needed. And dishes got cleaned up and ready for the next day. We had clean clothes. So she's busy. My daughter's busy in a real estate business. And so her focus is on taking care of those clients
Mhm.
and she'll find food. Whereas other people, that family meal kind of thing, that's the focus that person is making. So
Yeah.
different strokes.
Yeah. Well, and that's the important thing of what are you doing for your family,
Hmm.
right? And knowing too, like sometimes I get in a bad habit because I eat a lot of meals alone. Oh, I'll just read, or I'll just not present with the food, and then
Ah,
I'll finish dinner going. Well, I guess that was dinner.
yeah. Did I eat? Well,
Yeah, right. Whether I'm hungry or not, whether I realize I ate it or not, doesn't matter. It's dinner. Move on. Carry on.
that's a real foundational piece for the Weight Watchers program that I've
Yeah.
been using for 30 years. It's food time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Appreciate this. It's serving a purpose. Enjoy it and then go on. But
Well, and
it,
it's true because um, I've had my own weight journey and being present with the food. And I also had a doctor who said to me, your brain doesn't tell your stomach food's coming for 20 minutes. So if you are done your meal that took you half an hour to cook, if you're finished eating in 10, you're still scrounging the kitchen for more food. So if your meal takes 15 minutes to make, you take 30 minutes to eat it. And I was like, 30 minutes? He goes, yeah, it's a lot of chewing.
yep. intentional,
Yeah.
and not just in meals, in other activities. Um, and I said to my children one time, let me know if I need to put down the spoon when I'm, preparing a meal. That was just a metaphor. If I need to give you more attention than I'm giving, a half an ear, whole ear. And how many of us have not had a conversation where we'll repeat the last 3 words that somebody said as kind of a pretense that I'm paying attention to you, but really, shoo, shoo, I'm going someplace else altogether.
Yeah. We used to go, Mom, you didn't hear a word we said. I did. And I go, no, you didn't, because you just
Mm,
answered wrong.
yep, yep, you missed it.
And it
Well,
wasn't, yeah.
this has been a great conversation, Adele. You've made me think about a lot of things.
Well, that's good. Because we need our voice as our instrument, whether it is projecting our businesses, whether it's projecting our family values, whether it's just speaking among our family in conversation. The voice brings us back to presence. If it's squeaky, we're not in our body. If it's like scattery, you can't find the words, you're not in your body. So it's bringing it back to the vibration of who
Nice.
you are, right? And that's where in your example of the people coming in to do their pitch for 90 seconds in a different language, they have to be present.
Mhm.
Their native tongue, they probably couldn't do the pitch, right? So, as we close up, any final words that you want to say to the listeners?
I would
Obviously, if
be
they want voiceover, call you, but
Sure, sure. If they need somebody to read their new employee onboarding or new training or a corporate narration about the history of their business, that would be super too. But if somebody just wants to call me up and say, how do I work on this? Or
mhm.
why am I afraid of this? Just go to my website, hervoiceworks.com, put a note on my LinkedIn page, Patricia M. Smith, VO. Send me an email, patricia.m@hervoiceworks.com. Happy to chat because that's what I do.
Well, it's been an honor having you on the show. And yeah, like when I first met you in networking, I'm like, whoa, she has a powerful voice. I like it just like, whoa, right? And yeah, so look forward to the next one. Thanks for
Thank you,
being a
Adele.
guest.
You're great fun. Take good care.
Thanks. What a delightful conversation with Patricia M. Smith. Like she said, drop her a line. She can help you with anything. Voiceover for your company. And who knows, maybe she might be the next voiceover for your beloved book. Everything will be in the show notes for contacting Patricia. And until next time.